This is the story of the 2024 Moral March on Washington with the Georgia Poor People's Campaign. 2 buses carrying 93 marchers would leave Georgia traveling up I-85 and I-95 to the nation's capital, where we would join people from around the country for the National Moral March on Washington, and then return to Georgia that weekend. At least that was the plan. Things started out well at North Avenue Presbyterian Church in downtown Atlanta as marchers gathered to register for the weekend. We were privileged to have Ambassador Andrew Young as the keynote speaker of our rally that morning. He inspired all of the marchers, including a young boy whom he told would be a leader of the future. After the rally, it was time to get on the road. The marchers for Bus 1 boarded the coach and got on their way. As they traveled across North Georgia and South Carolina, they named some of the issues that face poor and low-wage workers across America.
A lot of people that are inside these communities do not have education. So when they jump out, they have either one route to go. They have to either find a job or they go to jail.
Come on, brother.
When people go to jail, sometimes that's because they don't have anywhere to stay. So they're homeless. So jail gives them somewhere to stay where they have meals.
Come on.
I would touch on education because people need education. And lastly, I would talk about the wages of the job. When I was 16 years old, I worked at a shoe store for $7.25, and there was people there, it's like 25 years old, trying to provide for their family for $7.25. So I would touch on 3 bases: community, education, and wages.
Our leader.
It hurts my heart to see so many homeless people. In the winter, I just cringe. In the summer, I cringe for them. And I'd want to ask, how can we afford to send billions of dollars to Ukraine and we can't help our homeless people right here? That's what I want to know.
My name is Anaya, and I'm from Jamaica. And all these homeless people, they're doing it to have a home. They're going to jail for a home. They're not doing it because they want to. They want to do it because they want to have a home. They want something to eat.
Yes.
Wow.
Running drugs was my way to be able to make a living for myself. Because now I'm a convicted felon. I'm fought for 2 years to be clean off drugs, and I'm still being punished because of my way of having to force myself to live. So how are you going to help me be able to change my life with the past that I've had that kept me alive, kept me to have food in my stomach and a place to stay?
My name is Tomar Morgan. I'm a sophomore at Clark Atlanta studying sociology. Oh, yeah. My question is, how is the government going to help its citizens heal? Because a lot of us suffer from childhood trauma. Because if we heal from the trauma, if we heal the land in love, then I think that America would be such a better place. Come on.
Wow. Meanwhile, back in Atlanta, our second bus was 5 hours late. That was that little detour we mentioned. But we got on the road, headed north on I-85, making some stops along the way, including at Holy Covenant UCC in Charlotte, and then Watt Street Baptist Church in Durham for dinner. We were supposed to arrive at Watt Street around 6 p.m., but we didn't arrive until after 11 o'clock that night. The Watt Street team waited for us and provided a wonderful meal, which was just great after what was a very full day. But the day wasn't over, as we still had to drive into Richmond, Virginia to our 3 lodging locations, which meant we arrived late. And so morning came pretty early, but all of the marchers rallied. We want to give a special thanks to the folks of First Unitarian Universalist for providing breakfast for some of our team. We got on the road to finish the final leg to Washington, D.C., and there the marchers from both of our buses gathered together and prepared to make their way over to Pennsylvania Avenue, where we joined Bishop William Barber, Reverend Liz Theo Harris, and other marchers from around the nation for the Poor People's Campaign March. Over the course of the march, Bishop Barber, Reverend Theo Harris, impacted witnesses, and other speakers lifted up the 17-point agenda that guides the work of the Poor People's Campaign. The Georgia marchers added their own voices for this call for justice. Sometimes they did so in terms that were very personal. It was very significant that there were numerous children and youth in the Georgia delegation. Several adults on the trip had shared how their first experiences of social justice came when their parents or grandparents took them on a march with Dr. King and others. We were glad to see that cycle continue. We were also glad to have some muscle men on the march, as well as very strong women, which made it all the more appropriate when Bishop Barber spoke about the power of democracy.
Say, we are the swing vote. And we've got power. Power. We commit to waking the sleeping giant of everyday poor and low-wage people who've been silent far too long. We are the swing vote, and we've got power.
As the march came to a close, we gathered the children, our placards and signs, and made our way back to the buses. We knew that a number of the marchers had never been to DC before, so we took a swing along the mall to see a few sights and make our way to a special memorial. We wanted to visit the Martin Luther King Jr. Memorial to allow the marchers to experience that plaza and to take in the words that he offered to the nation and to the world, and then to gather as a group, as our entire group, and remember the founder of the Poor People's Campaign and all those who have gone before us. Then it was time to get back on the road. We left Washington, D.C. and headed back south to Richmond, Virginia, where we arrived at Ginter Park Presbyterian Church and were warmly welcomed by the congregation into their fellowship hall, where a delicious dinner was waiting for us. They thought about having a play date for the children in the courtyard as we gathered around tables and, led by Coming Together Virginia, held discussions about the meaning of this weekend and what comes next when we return to Georgia. They did a great job. Then it was time to get back on the buses with our 4 bus drivers and make the overnight drive to Georgia. As dawn was breaking, we crossed the South Carolina line and stopped for some gas and breakfast, where even our meal order carried the theme of the weekend. We continued on and arrived safely in Atlanta and then Warner Robins, completing the trip. The 2024 March on Washington was a call for justice for the 140 million poor and low-wage workers across America. But it was also an invitation to relationship, because we know that when we join hands, there's nothing that we can't accomplish together. Now, a closing word of gratitude.
Thank you to everyone who supported our march. Forward together, not one step back.